The ballroom shimmered with golden light as Armand Halim adjusted his tie, watching Zoya across the crowded space. His wife looked radiant in her emerald dress, laughing freely with colleagues from the firm, a sound he realized he hadn't heard enough lately. The corporate party was in full swing, celebrating their company's merger, and Zoya seemed lighter than she had in months. "Another champagne, Mrs. Halim?" A waiter appeared beside her. Zoya hesitated, then accepted with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Armand noticed it was her fourth glass, or was it her fifth? He'd been counting without meaning to, the way he'd been counting everything lately. The late nights she worked, the conversations they postponed, the distance growing between their bodies in bed. His phone vibrated insistently. The screen showed his business partner's name. Armand frowned, stepping toward the balcony for better reception. "I need 15 minutes," he told Zoya, touching her bare shoulder. She turned, eyes already glassy from the alcohol. "Take your time, I'm fine." Those two words would haunt him. The call stretched to 20 minutes, a crisis with their international client that needed immediate attention. When Armand returned to the ballroom, scanning for emerald silk among the sea of suits and cocktail dresses, his chest tightened. Zoya's purse sat abandoned on their table. Her phone screen glowed with missed calls from her mother. But Zoya herself had vanished. "Have you seen my wife?" asked their colleague Rashid. "She was here 10 minutes ago, getting another drink. Seemed a bit unsteady." Panic shot through Armand's veins. He checked the restroom hallway, the terrace, the coat check. Nothing. His calls went straight to voicemail. Before he remembered, her phone was still on the table. The ballroom suddenly felt suffocating. Where would she go? Why would she leave without telling him? The old fears crept in, the ones he'd buried after their wedding 3 years ago, the insecurities about not being enough, about losing her to the successful world she navigated so confidently, while he still struggled to build his business. But then another thought struck him, clear and painful. What if she was running from him? Armand grabbed both their coats and left the party without explanation, his heart pounding as the elevator descended. The city sprawled before him, vast and indifferent, and somewhere in it, Zoya was alone.
The night air hit Armand's face as he stepped onto the street, his breath forming small clouds in the December cold. Where would Zoya go when the world became too much? He closed his eyes, forcing himself to think past the panic. Then it came to him, a memory from 7 years ago. They'd been nobody then, fresh graduates with dreams bigger than their bank accounts, walking these same streets because they couldn't afford a cab. Zoya had cried that night too, overwhelmed by rejection letters and student debt, and Armand had taken her to the river. His feet moved before his mind fully decided, retracing the path they'd walked when love was all they had to offer each other. Past the late-night shawarma stand where they'd shared meals, past the bookstore where Zoya would spend hours she didn't have, reading books she couldn't afford. Past the bench where he'd first kissed her, tasting rain and possibility. The riverside walk was nearly empty at this hour. Street lamps cast golden pools across the pathway, and there, sitting on their bench, hugging herself against the cold, was Zoya. Her emerald dress looked out of place here, too elegant for the worn wooden slats and graffitied railings. Her makeup had streaked down her cheeks, and her hair, once perfectly styled, now hung loose around her shoulders. Armand's heart cracked open. He didn't call out to her. Instead, he walked slowly, deliberately, until he was close enough to drape his coat around her trembling shoulders. Zoya startled, turning with wide, ashamed eyes. "Armand, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Shh." He sat beside her, close enough that their thighs touched. "I'm just glad I found you." "You must be so angry." Her voice broke. "I ruined the party.
I left like some dramatic fool. I drank too much, and I'm not angry." And he meant it. The fear had burned away all other emotions. I was terrified, Zoya. Terrified that I'd lost you. Not tonight, but before tonight. That I'd already lost you and just didn't realize it. She turned to him fully then, her eyes reflecting the river lights. "What do you mean?" Armand took her cold hand in his, feeling the wedding ring he'd placed there 3 years ago. "When did we stop talking? When did we become strangers sharing a bed?"
Zoya's tears came faster now, but she didn't pull away. "I don't know. I don't know when it happened, but I felt it too. Every day I felt us slipping. Tell me why you left the party." Armand's thumb traced circles on her palm, the gesture so familiar it hurt. She laughed bitterly. "Because I was standing there, surrounded by all those successful people, drinking expensive champagne, and I suddenly couldn't breathe. Everyone kept congratulating me on the merger, on my promotion, asking about our life together. And I realized I'm living the dream we used to talk about, but I'm living it alone." The words hit Armand like a physical blow. "You're not alone." "Aren't I?" Zoya's voice cracked. "When was the last time we had dinner together? When did we last make love without one of us being too exhausted to care? You're building your business, I'm climbing the corporate ladder, and somewhere between ambition and achievement, we forgot about us." Armand pulled her closer, wrapping both arms around her. She smelled like champagne and her familiar perfume, jasmine and something uniquely Zoya. "You're right. God, you're right, and I've been too proud or too blind to admit it." "I walked out of that party," Zoya continued, her face pressed against his chest, "and I just kept walking. I didn't plan to come here. My feet just remembered." "Mine too." Armand kissed the top of her head. "I knew exactly where to find you because this is where we promised forever. Remember?" Zoya pulled back slightly, looking up at him. "You proposed here, right on this bench. You had that ring you'd saved for 6 months to buy, and your hands were shaking so badly you almost dropped it in the river. I was terrified you'd say no. I was terrified you'd never ask." Her smile was watery but genuine. "We were so broke, Armand, so utterly, impossibly broke, but we were happy. We can be happy again." He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away her tears. "We don't have to choose between success and each other. We just have to choose each other first." "How do we do that?" Her voice was small, vulnerable in a way he hadn't heard in years. "We start by going home together." The apartment was dark when they arrived, but Armand didn't turn on the lights immediately. Instead, he led Zoya by the hand through the familiar space, their footsteps quiet on the hardwood floor they'd chosen together 3 years ago. In their bedroom, he sat her on the edge of the bed and knelt before her, gently removing her heels. Zoya watched him with eyes that held something between gratitude and sorrow. "You don't have to. I want to." He massaged her feet briefly, remembering how she used to do this for him after long days at the construction sites during his early business years. "Let me take care of you tonight." He helped her stand, then slowly unzipped her emerald dress, the fabric whispering as it fell away. Underneath, her skin glowed in the moonlight streaming through their window. Armand grabbed one of his old university t-shirts, her favorite, and helped her into it. "Come here," he whispered, guiding her to bed. They lay facing each other, their bodies close but not yet touching. Armand traced the curve of her cheek, the line of her jaw, relearning the geography of his wife's face. "I've missed you," Zoya said, her voice thick with emotion. "I've missed you so much, and you've been right here the whole time." "I've missed you too. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers. I got so caught up in proving I could provide for you, I forgot what you actually needed from me. What do I need? This. He kissed her softly, tenderly. You need me present. You need me listening. You need me choosing us over everything else. Zoya's hands found his face, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, years of unspoken longing flowing between them. Her fingers tangled in his hair as his hands explored her body through the soft cotton of his shirt, remembering every curve, every sensitive spot that made her gasp. Armand, she breathed against his lips. I'm here, he promised. I'm not going anywhere. Their lovemaking was slow, deliberate, not the hurried encounters of the past months, but something deeper. Armand took his time, worshipping her body with kisses and caresses, reacquainting himself with what made her moan, what made her arch into his touch. When Zoya pulled his shirt over his head, her eyes held both desire and something more precious, hope.
Their bodies moved together with remembered rhythm, but also with renewed intention. Every touch was a promise, every kiss a recommitment. Armand held Zoya's gaze as they joined, watching her eyes flutter closed in pleasure before opening again, finding him, holding him. Look at me, he whispered, his hand cradling her face. Stay with me. Always, she gasped, her nails dragging down his back as sensation built between them. They climaxed together, their bodies trembling in synchronized release, and Armand caught her tears with his kisses. Tears of relief, of release, of coming home to each other after being lost so long. Afterward, they lay tangled together, skin against skin, heartbeat against heartbeat. Zoya's head rested on Armand's chest, her fingers tracing absent patterns across his ribs. We can't go back to how things were, she said quietly. Before tonight, I mean. We can't let ourselves drift apart again. We won't. Armand's hand stroked her hair. Tomorrow, we make changes, real ones. I'll hire that manager I've been putting off. You'll delegate more at work. We'll have dinner together at least 4 nights a week. We'll turn off our phones at 9 every evening. That's specific. He could hear the smile in her voice. I've been thinking about it for months. I just didn't know how to bring it up without admitting I was failing you. Zoya lifted her head, meeting his eyes. You weren't failing me. We were failing us, together. But we're fixing it together too. Together, he agreed, sealing it with a kiss. As sleep began to claim them, Zoya whispered, Thank you for finding me tonight, for knowing where to look. I'll always know where to find you, Armand murmured against her hair. Even when you're lost, I'll find you, because you're my home, Zoya. Everything else is just a place to sleep. She pressed closer, her breathing evening out as exhaustion and champagne finally claimed her. Armand held her, watching the way moonlight painted silver across her features, and made a silent vow. They'd built success. They'd achieved their dreams. Now they'd build something harder and more important, a marriage that survived its own success, not because they had to, but because they chose to. Every single day, they'd choose each other first. The end.